MJF returns. Adam Cole returns. And I think Bryan Danielson is dead. I'm Luke Owen and this is my review of AEW WrestleDream 2024 in as long as it takes.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk.
The 0 Hour saw Brian Cage win the ROH TV Championship from Atlantis Jr. and Anna Jay beat Harley Cameron. MXM revealed their third man was in fact Rico. Yes, that Rico, which led to a bit of fun comedy with him and Billy Gunn during their match with the Acclaimed. Acclaim picked up the win and Fightful Select report that AEW are keen to bring in Chuck Palumbo for a spot too, which is sort of hilarious. It's the Dave Meltzer incorrect answer. And the 0 Hour ended with your Collision main event as the Outrunners Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly beat the Premier Athletes and Dark Order in a perfect party match to warm this crowd up. Right, so 13 matches is too many matches for a pay-per-view. I think we can all agree on that. Just as 5 is too few, 13 is far too many. That said, this final match did get me ready for the pay-per-view, so I guess it did its job. They also set up a match between Kyle O'Reilly and Kazuchika Okada and Mercedes Moné versus Queen Armanada, which was announced later in the show, will happen on Dynamite this week. The show opened proper with Hangman Adam Page taking on Jay White in a fantastically brilliant match. Jay White may be a babyface now, but he sure hasn't changed the way he wrestles, and that matched perfectly with Hangman's pissed off angry nature. There was a spot pretty early on where Page had a pin on White, but White was far too close to the rope, so it wasn't even a 1 count, and Hangman Page so annoyed about this. White targeted the knee dropping him on the ramp at one point, which played into the finish as Hangman mistimed his leap for the buckshot due to his knee buckling, and White caught him with the Blade Runner for the win. A superb match, and a great example that Page can lose and not lose anything. Great match, great finish. Mariah May retained her Women's Championship against Willow Nightingale, who Fightful Select report was always the planned WrestleDream contender even before Britt Baker went down with an illness. Get up, come on, she's down with an illness. This match, which went just over 10 minutes, was so much better than it probably had any right to be. This was a needed match for this Mariah May title run, which has felt a little cold since the awesome All-In win, treading water until Toni Storm returns or Mina Shirakawa comes in. The finish ruled as May went for a top rope Hurricane Rana, but Willow countered it into a powerbomb attempt, but May managed to hit that Hurricane Rana and won with the Storm Zero. This was superb, but the match deserved much better build. Jack Perry retained his TNT Championship over Katsuyori Shibata in a fun little match with a finish that was designed to protect Shibata in that he had the rear naked choke in, but Perry rolled him over onto his back and pinned his shoulders down. So while it did protect Shibata to a degree, it also made him look a little bit thick. I actually really enjoyed the match, but it was really a backdrop to the post-match angle. Perry attacked Shibata with the belt, but Daniel Garcia ran down for the save, and then MJF made a surprise return to AEW following All Out, filming Happy Gilmore 2. Fightful Select report that he was doing reshoots for that movie, and apparently told people that he's flying back to finish those reshoots following this show, so it was a real surprise to see him at WrestleDream. But he wasn't the only surprise. MJF cut a promo on Daniel Garcia, noting that Garcia's bidding war wasn't all that impressive, and he's got back his Dynamite diamond ring that Danny pawned, only for Adam Cole, baby's music to hit, and he made his return. This wasn't Undisputed Kingdom Cole, this wasn't the Devil Cole, this was classic Adam Cole that was all about the boom. I got chills hearing that music, and the pop he got for chasing off Max and fist bumping Garcia was great. I'm sure there will be people saying that this is now a dropped storyline because Cole is randomly a babyface again, but I think it's probably for the best. The angle back in December certainly had Cole's injury working against it, but it also wasn't getting over. This is one of those rare examples where a little reset is a good thing. Sean Ross Sapp noted that following Jimmy Jacobs' resignation over the weekend, AEW did look at this show as somewhat of a creative reset in some areas. And this, for me at least, is one of the better ones. It sets up lots for Garcia, it gives a more satisfying conclusion to Cole vs MJF, and it's all in the TNT Championship picture. Multiple thumbs up from me. And speaking of multiple thumbs up, Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Konosuke Takeshita had their Unbreakable 05 moment. Shout out to the real ones who understand that reference. Holy heckins, this match was an out-of-body experience. Just unreal scenes, like Ricochet doing a Sasuke special to Takeshita but getting caught, so Will did a Sasuke special onto both men on the outside, the powerbomb into the Styles Clash combo, the Poison Rana German suplex sequence, the handspring into the Blue Thunder Bomb, Takeshita just beasting both dudes, the tombstone through the table. It was all insane and nuts and fantastic. Will Ospreay is on track to have loads and loads of multiple Match of the Year nominations in our end of year awards. And then in the finish, Don Callis pulled out the referee from the ring from a hidden blade on Takeshita and tried to hit Will with a screwdriver, but it was Kyle Fletcher who did the screwing, attacking Ospreay and set up Takeshita to win the International Championship. Kyle then hit Will with the Tiger Driver. Fightful Select report that Ospreay will be off TV this week to sell the move. I did not see Fletcher aligning with Don Callis coming. Not at all. I really thought we were building towards A, Takeshita versus Okada for the Continental Championship, and B, a United Empire reunion. But perhaps this is a smart way to delay that story while keeping the plate spinning while we wait for the return of Mark Davis. Either way, this was so damn good. Jerry Lynn told Orange Cassidy he really could be something if he tried. You respect Jerry Lynn in the comments. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get that joke. And then we had a TV angle on pay-per-view as Swerve Strickland made his return to AEW following All Out to give his decision on whether he's sticking with Prince Nana or joining MVP and Shelton Benjamin. He brilliantly and expertly made it feel like he could do one of those options, even though the choice was fairly obvious. Noting that he lost the world title, lost the cage match, and had his house burned down while under Nana's watch, but he also wouldn't have been a world champion or been able to buy his childhood home without Nana. But he and MVP go way back, and imagine just how powerful they could be together. But in the end, Nana is family, and you never turn your back on family. Shelton Benjamin said they weren't asking, they were telling him, if you are not with us, you are against us. Shelton got his flowers in this segment, and that was wonderful for the record, and the referees broke up a potential melee, and that was it. No Bobby Lashley debut, which had been previously reported. And that might be because, according to eBill WrestlePurist, AEW have delayed the debut because this show, WrestleDream 2024, was loaded with angles and returns, and they didn't want Lashley's debut to get lost in that shuffle. Perhaps more of that creative reset. In a match that was very good but didn't have a lot of crowd heat from this rather tired crowd who still had 5 matches to watch, Hologram beat Beast Mortos in 2 out of 3 falls. It was cool to get Hologram on pay-per-view and feels like AEW were trying to level up his push, but WrestleDream 2024 did not need this match. What it did need, however, was Darby Allin beating Brody King in a difficult-to-watch match in all the best kind of ways. Allin got a cool video beforehand where he Marty McFly'd his way to the building by skating off the back of a bus, or, as the cool kids who played Mega Drive back in the day will know, like this guy with the Comic Zone sign, we call that Skitchin'! Skitchin'! Look, I'm a guy with the Tony Hawk 3 tattoo. I like the skateboarding stuff, alright. The match was Darby ragdolling around for the much larger Brody King, who had chops that sounded like gunshots. Eventually, Darby managed to push Brody off the middle rope onto some upturned stairs.
This is even more painful than it looks.
Then did a coffee drop to them as well. King managed to get back in the ring at 9.99999, and Allin hit another coffin drop for the win. A perfect finish, given that King has beaten Allin 6 out of the 7 times they've met, and Allin had never pinned him. Speaking of things that felt designed to pop me and fans of a certain age, Amazing Red had a cameo in the video package hyping up Private Party before their tag tunnel match against the Young Bucks. They had a really good match that struggled against a tired crowd, but they did manage to get them into some of the right points. It was amazing just how little reaction some of the stuff they were doing was getting, but I think that's also a testament to how little Private Party were built to get to this point. I've seen some say that this was the time to pull the trigger and belt up Private Party, but I disagree. This Bucks reign hasn't been great, don't get me wrong, but I think we need to actually build some teams to feel like credible forces before we put titles on them. This was not the Acclaimed at All Out 2022. The Outrunners are more over than Private Party at the moment, and I don't think they're the right team to beat the Bucks either. With Top Flight at ringside, this felt like we're still in the building blocks phase of rebuilding this division. Let's get the grizzled young veterans in that as well, please. I very much enjoyed the callbacks to that Dynamite match from 5 years ago and the Bucks one with the TK driver. A good match with sporadic heat. Speaking of matches with more heat than you'd expect, Mark Brisco retained his ROH Championship against Chris Jericho in a really good match with lots of heart and emotion. Shout out to Nigel McGuinness, by the way, bringing up on commentary on multiple occasions that Jericho has the #1 movie in America right now. Orange Cassidy and Rocky Romero cut off the Learning Trees cheating, and Mark kicked out of Jericho hitting the Jay Driller. Mark hit a froggy bow and Jay Driller of his own for the win. I didn't love the build for this. They did not earn that Jay line, but the match over-delivered. And the main event saw Bryan Danielson defend his AEW World Championship against Jon Moxley in a hell of a match. They brawled before the bell rung, which means they kicked 7 shades of spit out of each other, all while the final countdown rang throughout the arena. This match was full of that Bryan Danielson magic where you never truly believed he was going to lose, even when the odds were he was going to lose. It's in his hometown. He needs to get surgery. Mox is the top heel. This faction is the company's main storyline at the moment. But then he pointed his fingers in the air and said yes, and I truly believed he was never going to lose the title or ever retire. But he did lose the title, and the full-time career of Bryan Danielson is now over. The final stretch of this was heart-in-your-throat stuff with reversals, counters, transitions, and superb near-falls. But in the end, Mox got the Bulldog choke, and Bryan Danielson passed out. Jon Moxley is the new AEW World Champion, and the air was sucked out of the building. Because, like me at home, this crowd was made to believe that Danielson was retaining. That is the magic of Bryan Danielson. And in the most Bryan Danielson way possible, he went out by putting over as many people as he possibly could. The rest of the Blackpool Combat Club came down, strangely putting the world title in a duffel bag, and then went to choke out Bryan, but Wheeler Yuta and Darby Allin ran down for the save. And then Wheeler Yuta hit the Psycho knee on Darby Allin, turning his back on his Danielson mentor and joining the Moxley ranks, even though it looked like it killed him inside to do it. They taped Darby to the ropes, and Mox handed Yuta the bag to choke out Danielson. Security were kept out of the ring by the rest of the group, as well as the likes of Private Party and Jeff Jarrett. They Pillmanized Danielson's neck as the rest of the babyface locker room emptied, with most of the focus on Darby, Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia, and Hook to run the BCC off. Excalibur and the rest of the commentary team, save for a very salty JR, sold this perfectly, with the man in the mask in actual tears talking about this devastating end to Danielson's full-time in-ring career. Even Nigel McGuinness, Bryan's #1 hater, felt this was too much. The show ended with an actual and incredible hush over the arena. WrestleTalk.com's Amanda Savage, go follow her on Twitter and Instagram, said that the crowd did eventually boo, especially when Justin Roberts came on the house mic to let everyone know the show was over, you can go home now. I've also seen that some people did not like this online, as it was not the happy ending for Bryan Danielson. You know, the Bryan Danielson who didn't want the happy ending he got it all in and had to be talked into. I was lucky enough to be at one of the first public screenings of Avengers Infinity War. I was even given a badge at the end of it that told me to keep my silence about spoilers because it wasn't out for a couple of weeks. When that film finished and Thanos had won, there was a genuine gasp in the cinema. Actual shouts of, "What?" Like, genuine shock. Sometimes the baddies need to win, and for me, this is one of those times when it meant the most. Losing the full-time career of Bryan Danielson. This is the exact live crowd reaction they will have wanted this angle to get. And we had our happy moment less than 50 days ago. I cried when Danielson won then, and I cried again when he was stretchered out of the building. Bryan Danielson isn't just the best wrestler of all time, he's also the most selfless. I thought WrestleDream 2024 ruled. Not everything worked, and it had far too many matches. I do think AEW needs a bit of a creative reset, but this show was superb. I've seen that Jacobs has been used as a scapegoat, but the buck stops with Tony, and I'm hoping that this is the start of a new AEW chapter. You can go check out Friday's episode of the WrestleTalk News by clicking the video on screen right now, where we covered the real reason a WWE star was buried live on air, and the real reason for the Champion of Champions match at Crown Jewel, and what it means for the future of Saudi Arabia shows.